What is your go-to creepy or unexplained story? This can be anything from a paranormal encounter, glitch in the Matrix, or even aliens. Story 1. I didn't experience this firsthand, but I overheard some of it on the phone. My sister was visiting my parents, home from college, for the weekend. I live in my own place in the next town over, and I called her about something, and she was clearly very upset. She told me that she was home alone and something was happening. I asked if there was someone in the house, like an intruder, and she told me that there were animalistic growling noises coming from the corner, and my mom's dog was going nuts at the noise. I could hear him in the background. She said the hallway lights were flashing on and off, and I told her to get her jacket and calmly walk out of the house, taking the dog with her if she could, that I would be by soon to pick her up. She went outside and brought the dog with her, and her friend was even closer than I was, so she picked up my sister, and then they hung out at her friend's house for a while. About 20 minutes after that, my brother, who also lived nearby, stopped by the house to return some tools that he borrowed from my dad. He went inside because he saw the lights going on and off, and he's an electrician. Now, once he was inside, he stopped. He kept hearing someone walking around in the other room, but when he'd go in there, no one was there, and when he called out, no one responded. He checked the whole house and then also heard animal growling noises from the same corner as my sister. This is an outside wall corner with windows, not enough space for a raccoon or something to be trapped inside the wall. My brother felt really unnerved and left. Yeah, talk about a creepy house party. It sounds like your sister and brother stumbled upon some supernatural shenanigans. The growling noises and flicking lights definitely set the stage for like a spine-chilling encounter. So kudos to these people for at least staying calm and letting the sister know to make a swift exit with the dog. Like, safety first, right? It's quite the coincidence that your brother, the handy electrician, happened to witness the lights going on and off as well. Because those ghostly pranks sure know how to keep things interesting. The phantom footsteps and mysterious growls must have given your brother quite the fright. Sometimes it's best to leave the unexplained occurrences behind and just let the spirits have their fun. Story 2. This might become mine after what happened last night. I was playing poker at a local casino and got into a hand with this guy who was wearing some sort of space-themed hoodie. The second that the first 3 cards hit the board, I had the strongest deja vu I have ever experienced. I had a dream about that exact moment like a year ago, and I knew the exact next 2 cards that were going to come out. They came out just as I expected them, to the point of me calling them, and I won a huge hand. Story 3. I came home from a date at about 11 p.m. House dark, did not switch on the lights because I know my way around. And I went straight to the bathroom, and on my way back, down the passage, I bumped into my dog, a Shar-Pei, and he was as big as my mid-thigh. Told my boy that I love him and that he should be sleeping, but good boy for checking on his mom. Opened my bedroom door, which was 3/4 closed, and switch on the light at the same time, only to see him on my bed, sleeping, lifting his head when the light came on, to look at me. I would have heard him or felt him move past me. So I was alone. What bumped into me? Story 4. My daughter and I still wonder what happened here. We were traveling along the 401 in Ontario, Canada, from London to Kitchener. We've done this trek many times over the years. My daughter has to pee bad, so we're coming up to the first Kitchener off-ramp, so I tell her that the next ramp is ours, and we'll be home in 15 minutes tops. So we keep going, watching for our exit, which should be no more than a few minutes, but it doesn't come. We keep going and going and going, all countryside, and finally an exit comes up. But it's not the one that we're expecting. Somehow, although we hadn't thought so much time had passed, we had missed at least 4 exits, while watching for them and passed through 2 cities without seeing them. We ended up having to stop at a Tim Hortons to pee, and then driving back home another way. Story 5. Only mildly creepy, but it still gives me the shivers. I used to work at a small office, about 60 people at maximum capacity, that had a security guard on duty 24/7. One night, I had to stay super duper late by myself because I had to leave early the next day and needed to finish my workload. All of my other coworkers are gone around 10 p.m. The cleaning crew comes in, and now it's just me and the security guard. The place is dark, but I'm not at all frightened because I'm not scared of most things, like the dark or ghosts, etc. The security guard is a really nice dude, and we're in a safe neighborhood too. The security guards are required to make rounds every couple of hours, just to make sure things are fine. Sometimes they say something to us, and sometimes they don't. Tonight, a nice security dude stops by my cubicle and asks, "Everything all right?" Big friendly grin on his face as usual. "All good here, thanks," and I go back to work. 20 minutes later, he's back again. Big grin. "Everything all right?" "Yep, nothing yet." 20 minutes later, he's back. Big grin, and at this point, I'm a little creeped out. There is no need for him to come by this frequently. In fact, It's disruptive. I also noticed that the way that he interacts with me is almost always exactly the same, as if I were in a time loop. Same big grin, same intonation, same rhythm of speech. Not only that, I noticed that he whistles the same thing at around the same time. So if I turn off the music on my headphones, I can hear his whistling coming closer before he asks, "Everything all right?" Now it's around midnight and I'm totally freaked out. I try to rationalize this with myself because I have to get this work done. I'm rushing through my work and I keep hearing that whistling behind me. Surely he won't come back again. Everything all right? At this point, I'm freaked out because I no longer trust this guy that I felt so safe around, and I was a young woman in my mid-20s. The security guard is a dude in his 50s. I couldn't finish everything, but I wrote an email to my supervisor saying that the security guard is acting very strange, and I don't feel safe. I shut everything down and try to rush out to the exit. I don't run into the security guard, and just as I'm feeling free and clear, I hear, "Bye now," behind me. He's standing there in the dark hallway, a big grin, just standing there and watching. I mumble something and sprint to my car. The next day, I rush to my supervisor to try and explain what happened the night before. In the light of day, I kind of felt like I might have overreacted or maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. Turns out, the dude just disappeared. Like, he's missing. I'm pretty sure they still haven't found him to this day. The security guard company just kind of dismissed it as some flaky guy who quit for no reason, and no one seemed to be pursuing it much. He must have been suffering some kind of mental health issue or something, but up until that night, he was just a super nice, trustworthy, reliable security guard that everybody loved. It also felt like some sort of weird paranormal stuff because it really felt like something had taken over inside of him. Well, that's one office encounter that takes the term security guard to a whole nother level. From the repetitive everything all right to the unsettling grins and disappearing acts, it is like a real-life paranormal thriller. Like, who knows what strange forces were at play here? That's a big nope from me. Just remember, when things get eerie in the workplace, it's best to just sprint out to safety and leave the mysterious stuff behind. Keep your office adventures full of productivity and probably free from ghosts. Always a good bet. Story 6. This had to have been about 2 years ago during the summer. I had this dream that I was in this old-timey train station, and I was standing next to this man wearing a brown trench coat and one of those fedoras that reporters used to wear. The man then turned to me and said, "I'm going to pick up your Uncle Bud. Don't worry about him, he's going to be just fine." As the man turned around, the train pulled up and the man walks on. I woke up from the dream as soon as the train pulled out of the station. When I woke up, it was about 1 in the morning, and the next morning, I got the news that my great-uncle Bud died in the night around 1 a.m. I immediately told my parents about the dream, and after describing the man in the station, my dad shockingly exclaimed that he knew for a fact that the man in my dream was his dad who had passed years before I was born. According to my father, his dad wore the same brown trench coat and hat, and it made sense that his dad picked up Uncle Bud because they used to be really good friends. I remember at that time being really shaky on my beliefs of the paranormal, and sometimes I still am, but I truly cannot explain that. Story 7. There's a lady that my mom has often seen doing questionable things in our street. I was walking to the shops with my mom, and she pointed out the said lady who was standing outside the shopping center to show me who she was. I was just like, "Oh, okay." And we kept walking inside and left this lady still chatting to another person outside. There is only one entrance to this small shopping mall, and we walk into the store, pick up a trolley, only to see this exact same lady now at the front of the long queue with groceries waiting to pay. Same person, same clothing, same everything. To this day, we still cannot begin to fathom how she got past us and did her shopping in basically less than 2 minutes when we left her standing outside, and we're both sure as hell that she didn't pass us in that space of time. Story 8. I was catching a train one day and I found a DVD on a seat. I checked to see if anyone owned it, but the train car was empty, so I stuffed it in my bag. That night, I watched the short film that was on the DVD. In the film, the protagonist found a DVD on the train, and later on in the film, he met the star on the DVD that he had found. Fast forward to a few nights later, and I was at a restaurant and saw the actor who played the protagonist. Not quite believing what was happening, I walked up to him, introduced myself, and told him that I found the DVD of the movie that he starred in on the train. Initially, he said something like, "Oh, cool." Then, as it sunk in, his face went pale. His mouth gaped open, and we both had to have a drink to recover from our minds being blown. The serendipitous twists of fate. It's like a movie within a movie, like a DVD inception. You stumbled upon a random DVD on a plane, watched the short film, and lo and behold, The protagonist you saw on the screen materialize right before your eyes. Talk about a mind-blowing encounter. Like, imagine the actor's reaction when you walked up to him, casually mentioning, "Hey, I found the DVD featuring your performance. Oh, cool," and then quickly transformed into a jaw-dropping realization as the sheer absurdity of the situation sunk in. That must have been a sight to behold, and it does sound a little set up, like maybe it was planted to create this, but who knows. Story 9. When I was a little kid, I remember I was running around my room and I decided to go to the bed and jump from it. As soon as I jumped, suddenly everything went into slow motion. It was like that there was no gravity for some time. I got really scared, so I just closed my eyes and I slowly landed on the ground. And I'm sure it wasn't a dream. Story 10. Honestly, one of the scariest moments of my life. High school me is alone because my parents are out of state for something, and I've been sleeping on my mom's bed while they were gone because it's just so comfy. So it's a couple minutes before my alarm goes off, and then I hear the bedroom door burst open, and we kept the doors closed because of our dog. And I can't even move my head to see it, like I'm just stuck, frozen. My sheets get ripped off of me and thrown over my face. Now at this point, I can barely breathe. The next thing I know, I felt like I woke up. My sheet was on the floor and I could breathe again. And one thing didn't make sense though. The door was still open. As I turn to look and see that, I hear loud footsteps running through the hall, and I immediately spring up to go see it, and there was nothing there. My dog was still sleeping, like nothing happened. I decided that I'd rather be at school than in that house. Yeah, what does that tell you? And as I'm walking to the bus stop in a light drizzle of rain, lightning legitimately strikes the sidewalk on the other side of the street. I don't even know what to do at that point, so I just tried to ignore everything that day. Story 11. Let me tell you about the time a witch gave me money at a casino. I was playing jacks or better away from my friends because I had lost all my money playing blackjack, like only $40, but in college at the time. I am betting a quarter at a time, so it's just me over there using the machines. Now eventually an old woman comes and sits down right next to me without saying a word. She proceeds to play for 1 minute and then wins the jackpot. I believe it was something like $2,000. There was a ton of noise coming from the machine and people were beginning to notice, and she turns to me and this is how our conversation went. "Lady, are you a Christian?" Me. "What?" "Lady, are you a Christian?" Me. I guess so." "Lady, well, I am a Wiccan. Do you know what that is?" Me. "Like, witchcraft?" "Lady, yes, exactly. My stars were aligned tonight, the moon and planets were aligned tonight, which is why I won. I see the same alignment in your stars and moons and planets. Here is $20. May it help you tonight." She then was taken away by the security to come claim her prize. And I walked up to my friend and told him the story, and he goes, "Oh, we have to bet with this money right now." So we walked over to the craps table, put it all on red, and won. I bought everyone Taco Bell with the winnings. Story 12. I have a few stories, but all of them happened over the years growing up in a somewhat rural coastal community in Nova Scotia. The biggest one that comes to mind is all teenagers at my buddy's house, partying, music, drinking beer, etc. I was sitting at the kitchen table with some people, and he was out smoking on the deck with some others. Everyone was in that area. No one was in the rest of the house. Suddenly, a loud crash, and he comes running in, expecting one of his friends to break something, like his parents had a lot of china and silver and generally breakable collectibles. We all jumped up, explaining that we hadn't touched anything as we went to inspect what had gone on. There were probably 20 to 24 pictures lining the staircase all the way up. Some of them of old relatives, others of miscellaneous things in old wooden frames, and every one of them had fallen off the wall and toppled in a pile on the tile at the bottom of the stairs. But none of the glass broke. Well, that's mysterious. It's like the pictures decided to have their own little party on the staircase. Like maybe they were tired of hanging on the wall and just wanted to join the festivities downstairs. Or perhaps it was their way of saying, "Hey, we also want to be the center of attention too." It is a good thing that the glass didn't break, I guess, because otherwise you'd have a very kind of different party with some unexpected cleanup duties. Who knew pictures could be so rebellious and coordinated and, I guess, possessed at the same time? Story 13. This one is probably me misremembering quite a bit since I've always had a lot of trouble recalling minutia. But one night, if I recall, it was just prior to midterms starting in my freshman year of high school. I was attacked by something that came into my room through the window. The window's screen had been shredded and snow had fallen in, so it was safe to assume that was the entry point. I woke up probably sometime around 1 a.m. to see something lying on the floor. It was too dark to see anything as it was still snowing outside and the moon was blocked from sight. So when I panicked and tried to get out of bed, it jumped at me. Got a couple of nasty scratches, but ultimately, then it left. The door to my room was locked, so it obviously couldn't go anywhere. And honestly, I thought that I imagined it, or that it was a nightmare since I had been having night terrors and it was in fact in close proximity to midterms, so I was pretty stressed anyways. But the scratches on my arms were very real. My friends never believed me and my parents claimed that it was the cat, but the fact remains that we had to replace the screen on the window. Story 14. Way back when I was in junior high, I was sitting on some bleachers after school watching an intramural floor hockey game. Now, these bleachers were pushed all the way in, so we would literally climb to sit at the top of them, which I'm estimating was probably about 10 feet. So I'm sitting up there, and I stand up to move, and my foot gets caught. And I try to save myself, but I end up falling. What's really odd is that I don't remember the fall at all. I remember starting to, but then I woke up just as I hit the floor. But it was like I had fallen only a few inches and landed on my back. I heard the gym fall silent as I popped right back up. And the teacher asked in a panicked voice if I was okay, and I said, yeah. And then just kind of climbed right back up there. I should have bounced my head off the floor and incurred some kind of injury, but I felt literally nothing. Story 15. Not sure if this is supernatural, but it's definitely creepy. I was hiking through the remnants of a remote, long-abandoned town and the surrounding area. And to get as far into the woods as I was, you had to cross fallen trees over a creek 3 times. I had just crossed the 3rd bridge and was about 5 miles in, and something blue caught my eye just ahead of me. There was a man, like in his 60s at least, wearing blue satin pajamas, sitting in a tree. The closer I got to him, the louder that he laughed, and it wasn't a maniacal laugh, but it set off the alarms in my head nonetheless. He also wasn't wearing any shoes and looked very well groomed, cleaned. I gave him a friendly nod as I passed, and he just kept laughing. Then it stopped, and I turned, and he was gone. There was no branch cracking, plants rustling, nothing. He was just gone. Still rubs me the wrong way. The area that I was in is a pretty rough hike, very secluded, so not very many people venture as deep as I was that day. No idea what was going on there. So encountering a man in his 60s wearing blue satin pajamas, sitting in a tree and laughing loudly in a remote abandoned town is, undeniably creepy. And when he disappeared without a trace, that only adds to the mystery, like something out of an old spooky tale. Now, whether he was a mischievous forest spirit or a guardian of the town, it's definitely chilling, and you probably didn't want to stick around to find out. So stay cautious out there. If you ever see weird guys just sitting in trees and laughing, these are called red flags, and you should avoid them. In the comments, does anyone want to share their old, creepy, paranormal, weird experience as well?